Good afternoon. Welcome to C&T Collectibles IMC, and this is our Friday afternoon chart blast where we have questionable advice and even worse production value. This is where we look at the price action of our favorite sports cards: baseball, football, and basketball. And the fundamentals will tell you what should be happening, but the price action will tell you what actually is happening. And I think it's important to be aware of both, long term, short term, to kind of figure out what you're gonna do with things. And before I just keep babbling on, let's just get right to it because we got a lot of work to do here today. Start off as always with Mike Trout, and the long term uptrend is intact. And we were looking at this area here when we had this spike out, said, you know what, a little too much here. Look for a return to this area, similar to the 2014 area where you had your breakout and the comeback. Top of the range, bottom of the range, breakout, coming back. And we're starting to see a lot of buying kind of pick up in this area here. So zoom in just a little bit, and you can see that there is pretty steady buying in this area. So we like to, if you're looking for that PSA 10 and you've got $4,500 burning a hole in your pocket, this seems like a very interesting area. So I have to buy on it right here. Right at kind of our long-term target, and it did start to get going here, but a couple of sales have brought it back to this line here. So as long as this holds, we should be all right. Any further move down will be a screaming buy. The PSA 10, $4,500, PSA 9, $1,800. So we should be looking at something closer to $6,000 on this card. If the PSA 9 has anything to say about it. So the PSA 9 could drift lower, I suppose, but it's kind of holding up firm. So I would think people will start to come in here as they realize that prices are firming up, and now's a decent time to do it, so they don't have to chase it any higher here. So all right, moving on to Luis Robert, and this is the Chrome. Looked at this a few weeks ago, and just the base card's kind of boring here. So the Chrome looks a little bit more interesting. But you've got these low volume spikes that usually bring it back down to the bottom of this range here. So low volume spike back to the bottom of the range, and now we're sitting on the bottom of this range here. So this is a very interesting spot to buy the Chrome. If you're trading a stock, you'd say I'll buy it here instead of stop just underneath it at $150. Can't really do that with the baseball card. So the aggressive investor would be buying the Chrome in this spot right here and looking for some upside to $200. But honestly, as thinly as this is traded, you could see it get knocked down into this sub $150 area. So take it with a grain of salt. I think baseball's in a holding pattern here. You had a lot of speculation in the offseason, and now we only have to wait a week for the rubber to meet the road here. So I think with a lot of these cards, patience will be required, and if these players start to produce, then you'll start to see, or not produce, then you'll start to see some real movement. So, but anyways, Luis Robert, the Chrome looks at least interesting here. The gold in a downtrend is making new lows here, and I like gold cards for the most part because his print runs increase. Just anything numbered will have kind of a fixed run and maybe hold its value just a little bit more, but hasn't been the case for this one here. The raw golds are continuing to trend down. I think if he comes out of the gates and starts playing well, then this is a pretty good opportunity here. So, but for the most part, sales are kind of thinning out and right around the low. So we'll see how that goes. The base card, we know the drill on this one. A lot of sideways action. 155 is your high, like $100 or something like that is your low. So we're right in the middle of that range here. So not enough people are buying it, but it is range bound, and people are just waiting. Show me something here. So kind of an expensive card for a guy that people don't know much about, but that's how it goes here. Here's an expensive card of a guy that people know a lot about, future Hall of Famer Mookie Betts. So long-term uptrend is intact here. In the last couple of times it's been in this area, last 3 times you've seen some very nice moves. So $20 to over $100, and $50 to $500. So you got kind of these 10-time moves, and I'm not saying that we're going to see that again and make this an $8,000 card, but it's been an interesting spot the last few times here. So we'll see if the momentum can kind of pick up just a little bit here. It is flattening out, which is good. When you're on have this much of a move here, to kind of flatten out a little bit, and that's okay. What you don't want is these major crosses, and the width of the bands are wide, and then you have these big sells or anything like that. So flattening out is a good sign overall here. So we'll see if it can pop up over this downtrend line and get going here. So Mookie Betts. $850 for that PSA 10, $310 for the PSA 9. So the 9 would imply a price of over $900 for the 10 here. So we'll see if that kind of holds steady, then people might just gravitate towards that 10 and push it up here. So again, interesting spot for Mookie Betts. So Eloy Jimenez, he's still fielding the ball and not doing it very well. He got a little bit hurt here. So I wonder if that is factored into this price here. He had overall range bound. And so these are your sells. You sell it at about $100 and you buy it at about $30 to $40. So top of the range again on low volume move, and it's worth a sell. Not enough buying to push that up ahead there. So got a controlled downtrend here, but it broke this uptrend line. So you're in an area where there's a lot of buying, so this could hold. You know, the last few times we got to $60, enough people have purchased the card to support that level here. But the trend is down, and so we'll see what happens if it gets into this area, $40 or $50. And I think a lot of people will buy. But again, we're really close to the season. I think you see a lot of hesitation and people just really wanting to. When you see these big moves, it's fewer and fewer buyers, and so when you see these tiny moves, it's a lot of people buying. So these wide mood swings say not a lot of people are in. I think it's again with a lot of baseball, it's wait and see at this point, especially for these young players that only have a year or two under their belt. You don't know what you're in for, so. It makes sense that people are just kind of, just show me something, I think, at this point. So interesting spot, but the trend is down on Eloy. But, if you look at him for $60 or $70 compared to Eloy for 120, I mean, I'll buy this one all day, and I have been. So, all right, Ronald Acuna Jr., this is his initial Chrome release that came out during the season in 2018. Longer-term uptrend is intact, but he's at the top of the range here. So, again, with a lot of baseball cards, they've hit they're either consolidating at a low level, or a lot of them, especially the Chrome. I mean, they've just been on a huge run here. So let me just say this: a lot of baseball cards, Chrome baseball cards, are really stretched at this point here. So the Chrome looks like it's at the top of its range here. There's decent buying in this area, quite a bit of buying actually. So. But I think you might have to return to a little bit lower. So if you are looking for that Chrome and that PSA 10, you may want to wait just a little bit longer here. There's very little upside and there's a lot more downside. Not saying we come all the way down here, although this is a level where there's a lot of buying, but it could make its way down to a couple $100, which would be a decent haircut from the 285 that it's at right now. So looking at the paper version, still in the downtrend here, but the longer term uptrend is up here. So again, topish of the range. But a lot of people are buying in here, so I think there's enough to support it kind of in this area. Right now, we're sitting at $215 for the 10 and $71 for the 9, so there's no advantage either way here. But with the amount of buying that we're seeing here, I don't sense there's a ton of downside. And if he comes out and goes 40, 40, 50, 30, something crazy this year, then yeah, this card goes up. But Acuna has a lot more rookie cards than some of these other guys, so I wouldn't expect $400 or $500. But creeping back above this 250 area that it's kind of stuck at. That could certainly happen. So I like him. Fundamentally, I like him, but the price action saying, might as well wait and see like everybody else is doing. So Juan Soto, this is the Bowman's Best. Yeah, I'm trying to find something that's just ripping here, and this one ripped. So the Bowman's Best, especially the shiny versions, have done very, very well here. So if you do have this card, it's probably too late to buy it at this point. But if you do have this card, this may be a decent spot to take a little bit of profit. If let's say you have 10 of them, sell like 3 or 4 or 5. If you have one, I have one, I'm just going to hang on to it. But if you've got multiple and you're looking to sell, this is a pretty decent area here. And if you're looking to buy, maybe take a stab at this 275 area, and we'll see what happens. But honestly, it could fall a lot, below this. There's not a lot of buying support prices in here. It could come way back down to $150, $150. So now Juan Soto does what he does last year, 200 weighted runs were created, MVP level performance, then this price is just fine. But again, this is where you sell, this is where you buy for the time being. All right, looking at his paper, long-term trend is up. Your $300 level here came back down to the bottom of this area, and we're kind of approaching that again. So you work off these big moves by going down or going sideways, and right now it's working it off sideways. So 380 was your high, $300 is your low. So we'll see how this plays out, but there's enough buying in this $300 area that's just the price for now until something happens. If he gets, God forbid, he gets hurt, or if he just slumps or something like that. But for now, I think that's your price on this card. So Soto, $325 for the 10, $127 for the 9. So the 9 is slightly overvalued, but I think that you could see buying start pick up again as that season gets started. No one's. It would be rare, I think, to see big spikes right now. We're just too close to the season getting started here. So, all right, moving on. Tatis. Shorter term look at this. $300 was the previous high back in 2020, the summer, and he's kind of been flirting with that line up and down here. So you have his contract signing, and then I don't know if did he sign another contract. Maybe he's on the hook for 28 years at this point. I don't know. So oh no, they found me. So all right, please comment in the background here. So all right, trend is up. That's what's up. That's the bottom line here. So you buy here, you sell up here. So right now, you buy Tatis unless it comes back down. And again, there's enough buying in this area, and he's a good enough player. If that shoulder really gives him a problem, he misses half a season, then yeah, you're coming back down to $150. But for now, if he just plays, I mean, he's been so good that this is kind of your support area here. But if you want to get really tricky about it, really cute, then this is your upwards trend, and you're at the bottom, and it's bouncing nicely, and so you buy here and ride it up to $380 and then sell it. So it's hard to do when you're just doing one card. So it's you want to kind of peel off as you go up here, but we're not able to do that. You can't sell like 1/10 of a Tatis or anything. So I got to move on. We got a lot to go here. So all right, shortstop week. So we're gonna look at a couple shortstops here. Then we'll move on to some football and then finish up with a little bit of basketball here. So Boba very wide in range here, $130 on the upside, about $60 on the downside. So low volumes in this area here, so it's like something's fishy. You kind of want to stay away from it. And when you got to the top of the range, it's like all right, sell them. And so they come off. And now there's a decent amount of buying in here, and so you can see that there's enough interest in the cards in this area here. Quick moves, but it keeps trending down. But I think especially if you get into that $60 area, there's a lot of people interested in the card at that level, the PSA 10. So if it does make its way back down into this area, and it's in the middle of the range now, so I favor, I think, maybe a little bit more upside. But if it gets to 60, then I think people start to back up you don't need to back up the truck for a $60 card. They're going to back up the sedan and start buying Bo Bichette. But if he comes out and he's a top 10 shortstop this year, which is really, really possible, even better, then yeah, you could see this up, and maybe it should be in that $120 range. But a lot of shortstops have been around for a while. This is the price that they command. 120, 150. You look at the Xander Bogaerts and Trevor Stories and Corey Seager and Trey Turner. I mean, their price is $130, $150. And Bo Bichette's not quite there yet, but if he has a really good season, then it could start to sneak up to that level. But technically, middle of the range-ish, and around $60, I think you could see a lot of buying here. So, all right, Gleyber Torres, a lot of indecision here. So prices are compressing in this. And you know what? I mean, he had a really, really great 2019, a really lousy 2020, and so prices are just compressing, and the patient investor will just wait. And if the prices break below this, then you are looking at $60. I think there's a lot of buying in there, so it could below this maybe $60. If it goes above this, then you've got a decent amount of buying up in this $120 range here. So he really has to get back to hitting 270 with 30 home runs. He does that, then people are on board here. But right now there's a lot of indecision. And I think with a lot of these cards, just why do you need to do anything right now? Give it a couple months into the season. But in the meantime, just kind of pay attention to what the market is telling you here. And the market is telling you they don't know either. So Francisco Lindor, monster spike here. So back in November, I was doing the Hall of Fame videos or whatever, who's on the path, and he was the number one guy, and said, if he gets traded, we're going to $400, and he got traded, and he went to $400. And that was too quick, and said, look for it to come off just a bit here if we got back into this area. So almost back into this area, but there's a very light volume here. Not a lot of people supporting these prices here. So, if you really want to be patient, you might have to wait a long time, but look for that $200 area. But with the Hall of Fame track that he's on, $300 to $400 makes a lot of sense for that card here. And so the market is sensing that as well. Not a lot of people have $300-400 to spend on a card, so you can kind of see that the low volume is there. But I'm getting towards the top of the range in this one here. So unless you can sustain a breakout above that, this is worth kind of a sell, and at a minimum a don't buy, because you may get another crack at a better price in your future. So that is Lindor. Trevor Story, not even worth charting this one. There's so little volume here, but hanging right around his highs. So here's a player making highs. You don't see a ton of those these days in baseball and card land. So So basically what that means, don't buy it. So when we get the basketball, I'll show you kind of how I scan for cards that are at least interesting. But here's a card that's held up really well. And so if you do have some of these, then maybe take a profit. He just doesn't have a lot out there. So Cal Ripken Jr. Let's look at one of the all-time great shortstops here. Long base, tons of buying here, and it broke out. And there was a lot of buying on that one too, a lot of interest in this card. But then it got really thin. But there's a lot of buying up here, so there's a lot of support. So if it breaks this area, then you were looking at retracements. Normal retracements would bring you back into this $560, $460 area, and that would put you back in this range here. And I think that's what ultimately happens at some point, $300-400. But for now, people like it up here, so I'm gonna wait. And if it never gets there, then I don't get the card. But for now, there's enough people supporting this price here, so I don't know that it makes its way to $1,300 or something like that. That's kind of what this is implying. If it goes up, or actually a little bit more than that, but for a Ripken. But I think if it's fun to watch. A lot of people are in it here. But once it breaks below, they might say, oh my gosh, I cut my losses, and you could see accelerated selling back into that area. So it hasn't happened yet. It's got to break that. So for now, we are good. All right, a couple football ones. I meant to throw in a Jeter here, but we'll do them another time. So anyways, because he was a pretty good shortstop, I heard. All right, Baker Mayfield. This is the raw. This is the hollow 2018. I don't know if this is the one you're supposed to buy, but so when I go to Card Ladder to kind of look for this stuff, I just pull up the ladder and then sort by the cards that have done like the best or the worst. And I like looking at the ones that are the worst, because those are usually huge sales and better opportunities. But he was up there on one of the better weeks here. He had a nice pop from $80 to whatever it is now, $150. So it looks like a buy it now on that one. Someone just pulled the trigger. These usually don't end well. So, but anyways, you can see that prices are trending upwards nicely here. But we're getting to an area where there has been selling in the past. Sorry, House of Cards tells me I move my cursor around too much, and he's totally right. So I got to be more conscious of that. I got to be better about it. So we'll go very carefully. Here's a sell, here's a sell, here's a sell. If we get a little bit more upside, it would likely be a sell, and you'd really like to buy this card, closer to this area here where it's 60, 70, $80 or something like that. So, but heck, it's right around its highs, and that's a good move here. Kyler Murray, pretty interesting here. So this is the base of the raw. And it's also had a very nice move this week. You've had your consolidation, and you've had your tops pretty well defined, and your bottoms pretty well defined, and it's breaking out. So maybe get a little throwback, and if it can just come back to this line, there's pretty decent upside here. We've got $90 on the upside, and call it like 30. You could see $150 on this card. So we'll see how it goes here, but it's breaking out of it. So when you have this indecision, you just want to wait for a break one way or another, and this broke one way. So there you go. So again, maybe a little bit throwback, but that's a pretty interesting card, and I think a pretty terrific player. He's done well for me in my Dynasty League, at least. So, all right, Joe Burrow, raw, silver. I think there's a difference between the base and the silver, so it's a little fancier, and the price would indicate that at least, but pretty decent downtrend. Again, it's breaking out, which is a good sign here. It's low volume, so I don't know if I would, I don't think you need to chase it. But if it comes back into this, if you do get a shot back into this area here, I mean, there's been a lot of buying to support that, but you could see a couple more purchases to push it up here. But again, it doesn't have to go with you. You don't have to chase that one. So, all right, Justin Herbert. Nice uptrend. He's putting in a new high. So, those football cards are really doing well on a relative basis here. So, free agency and combine, and football is a year-round thing, right? So there's no off season for football, but yeah, really nice uptrend here. So you've got your tops and you've got your bottoms, and it's right at the top now. It only took a couple of sales to get there. So last couple of times it's done that, it's come back very, very quickly. So nothing to do here, but as long as it keeps trending upwards, maybe you get another crack at that $45 area. Pretty decent spot to buy this base raw Justin Herbert. All right, Lamar Jackson, big move. And then back into a range. And it's just been consolidating since then. So here's your bottom. Here's your top. So $150 on the top, so $60 on the bottom. And you're kind of in the middle of that range. There's a couple of purchases. But I like this one a lot. It's setting up a nice base. And eventually, at some point, as long as he performs next year, why wouldn't he? Then this card breaks out and makes its way back up into this area here. So this is giving you a lot of chance to buy Lamar Jackson. So we'll see how that plays out. You're in the middle of the range. You don't have to do anything right now. But when it breaks out, then I think there'll be some chasing. But if it gets back into this area, it's probably worth a look-see. So I said look-see, didn't I? All right, Patrick Mahomes finished up football with this one. Really nice long-term uptrend. But you can see that there's some selling pressure at this point right now. So what you want to do with this one, it's kind of towards the bottom of this range. And, for the last, since 2019, this has been a great spot to buy every time. And you're right there again. So this is worth a buy. But you need to have a quick trigger, because if it breaks this, then you're looking at first stop right around that $600 area. And then you've got then 300. And then you got a lot of buying in this area here. But you don't want to buy it like $900 and then and have to sell it 200 or 300. I'm not saying that it gets there or anything like that, but as long as you get this, but you do have that selling pressure. So again, you want to wait for a break above this, because we could draw another line right here, and you saw the breakout, and then that was the place to kind of buy, or even better on those breakouts, wait for them to kind of throw back to this area and go. So if it breaks out, then kind of throws back and goes. So ultimately, this could be a really good spot to buy. It's a generational type player. We'll see what happens. And this isn't a spot where it's at least interesting. That's the Silver Raw. Wow, that's an expensive card for a Raw. So he's a really good player. I suppose that makes sense. So, all right, finish up with some basketball here. So I was looking at the ones that did the worst this week. And that Jason Tatum was the first on the list. So in basketball, card wise, I'm not saying we had bad games or anything like that. Maybe he did, but you can see what happened here. You had your range pretty well defined here around $90, and it got to the top of the range and immediately dropped to the bottom. And this has happened before, and you've seen purchases that bring it back to the top of the range. So this is at least interesting. If it cannot hold this, then you've got a lot of buying interest in here between that $9 and $10 area. So current price is $32. So end of the world it is not. But I think people got cut in half on this one here. So average price, high price, yeah, more than cut in half. But average, it's sitting like, I can't realize like $80 or something like that. Yeah, heck, I mean, whatever. You buy it for $30, and if it gets back up to $50, $60, $70 or whatever, you've made pretty decent money on this one. But you got to have be ready to have a quick hook, because anything below this line kind of brings you back into this $10 area, which I don't think makes a ton of sense here. So, anyways, this has been a buy for the last looks like 6, 7, 8 months or whatever. So until it doesn't work, it works until it doesn't. So there you go. It's a throw buy on it. Michael Jordan. All right. Accelerated move out of the spacing pattern, and right around here, threw up a video saying the bubble just burst, and yeah, it burst. And our ultimate target was kind of this area right here, and we've gotten that. So current price, $12,000. So yeah, close enough. For government work here. So it got down here, and then it had a big smack to things. So the trend is still down on this card. This has been met with selling each and every time, so we'll kind of see what happens. But yeah, if you can get back into this area, that's why I said buy, and I'm sticking to it. So eventually maybe it goes to here, but who knows? And this is a good enough spot. So iconic card, PSA 8. Affordable, I suppose, for Jordan, I guess. So Kevin Porter Jr. Looked at this one last week and right in this area and said, with this low volume move, look for it to get hit hard, maybe down to $300 or $400. And I didn't think like the following week it would do that, but we're getting close here. So this is a pretty decent topping pattern. So $700 is your high right now, stuck at $500, so $200 range. So from here, take $200 off of that one, you're kind of at that $300-400 area where there's been more buying. So look for this one to maybe a little bit more bounce, but to continue to slide lower. In Michael Porter, just figure we'll go with another Porter because he was sitting right there. You've got a pretty decent floor defined, this $150 area. And prices are compressing lower, so we'll see how this goes. Now he needs to break above this to get excited about it, but as they kind of, as selling gets met, quicker and quicker, then the probability of breaking lower is in the cards here. So, but if it makes it down here, I mean, this has been a decent spot to buy. But you're kind of in the range, and I don't think there's much to do with it right now. A little bit lower, you want to get interested, but. Yeah, we'll see what happens here. If it breaks this again, it's a quick move down, and $150 to $100, that's a 33% loss right off. There's probably not anything you can do about it because those sales will come in very quickly. But for now, it's getting middle of the range, and it's looking at least interesting over the nearer term. We'll see how that kind of plays out. And I wish I could come up with a chart of Terry Porter. That was my guy. Just kind of figure out the Porters. But now I think I'll just make a Porterhouse and call it a day. So all right, Devin Booker. Said, hey, right in here, this is where the aggressive investor will want to buy, and got a nice little pop, and then said, just be ready for some quick selling at that point, and got that too. So getting a little bit of everything with this one right here. So it's at a spot where people have bought before, so it looks at least interesting. And again, you've got a lot of indecision on what to make of this guy here. So we'll see how it kind of goes. This is an interesting spot right in this area. Any if there's a quick sell down to here, that's very, very interesting. But eventually it could make its way up here, and I don't know what the news catalyst would be. I just don't follow basketball enough anymore. But yeah, it could make its way back up here. So that's what I got for you today. That's way too much time. I really apologize, but there was more I wanted to go over, and I'll try and break these down into three. Once I get Tommy back on board with doing like our 3 and out and 3 up, 3 down, or whatever, this will be a lot. This will be a lot shorter, more digestible. But it is what it is. So, anyways, homework is done. We gave you the fundamentals, and now we've done the technicals, and pencils down, beers up, and have a great weekend. Thanks.